Watchers in the Fourth Dimension. Hello and welcome back to Watchers in the Fourth Dimension. I'm Anthony.
I'm Diana.
I'm Julie.
And I'm Reilly.
And this episode, it's time for another season retrospective. As we've reached the end of season 20, we will look back on this anniversary season with our usual blend of awards, a recap of our metrics, and questions gathered from you, our listeners, through our social media presences. Now, we would normally take a quick look at the mail at this point, but we're actually recording quite far ahead of our release schedule right now, and so we have no mail to actually read this episode. However, as a reminder, we really do love getting your feedback, thoughts, comments, and questions, and we do try and read out as many as possible on the show. So please do get in touch. You can contact us through Facebook and Instagram at @Watchers4D, or you can email us at watchers4d@gmail.com. You can also interact with all four of us on our Discord server. An invite link to that is in the show blurb. Additionally, we would absolutely love it if you subscribe to the podcast if you're not doing so already, and if you dropped us a review or rating on your podcast platform of choice. And with that, we are going to jump right into the substance of this episode, and we start with our awards. And as usual, we will take these in reverse alphabetical order. So Reilly goes first, followed by Julie, then Diana, and finally myself. And so we start with Best and Worst Stories, and the nominees are Arc of Infinity, Snake Dance, Mordrin Undead, Terminus, Enlightenment, and The King's Demons. Reilly, might be hard for you to come up with best.
Yeah.
What have you got for us?
I was about to say, this has been a season to forget. It was tough, but I will go with Mordrin Undead for the best story of the season. And my reasons are it's wonderfully creepy, has a decent premise, and a sensible plot, which is a leg up on most of the stories this season. And it has the brig. I mean, that's a big plus. The worst story is undoubtedly The King's Demons. I don't think that's any surprise. I'm not going to delve into it too much because we just covered it. But moving forward, any serial that has Ainley Master in disguise will immediately get deducted 5 rating points off the top. No questions asked.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, Julie, over to you.
All right, best story. I really enjoyed Snake Dance. So that's my favorite. I really enjoyed the vibes. Even though the plot wasn't great, the vibes were excellent. And I did also like Mordrin Undead because of the Brigadier. Yeah. Worst story, The King's Demons, followed very closely by Terminus. King's Demons was just really, really poor, very bad. And then Terminus is just really problematic because lepership.
Okay, Diana, what have you got for us?
So best for me was a toss-up. Mordrin comes in with a really solid honorable mention, but I loved Enlightenment. So Enlightenment definitely gets best for me. And for worst, we've got to go with Terminus. It was just bad. Things happened before the Big Bang happened. It was just bad. Not to mention the lepership. So yeah, definitely worst was Terminus.
I'm actually in complete agreement with Diana. My favorite this season was Enlightenment. I think it's wonderfully weird. That first episode brings that weird factor. You have Turlough literally at the feet of Captain Rack, who is just chewing up the scenery everywhere she goes. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was just so much fun in a season that otherwise was sorely lacking. Least favorite, like Diana, Terminus. It's problematic. It's not particularly well made. It's a terrible farewell story to Nyssa. Tegan and Turlough spend the entire story skulking around in air ducts, and the Doctor's paired up with someone who's not even a companion. It's just not good. And then you add in, as you say, all the problematic issues around leperships. So yeah. Our next categories are best and worst moments, and there are no nominees here. This can be anything from the season. So Reilly, go ahead.
I almost went with something completely ridiculous, but then I was reminded of actually my truly favorite moment of the season, which is something that I thought the whole scene was of a quality that I hadn't seen on the show in quite a long time. And that was the scene in Mawdryn Undead, where Mawdryn is trying to convince Tegan, Nyssa, and the Brig that he is actually the Doctor and to let him leave the TARDIS. The tension in that scene. And the best part of all was that the scene really reveals who these characters are. It shows them who they are under pressure. And that was just really tense and character-driven. It was wonderful. Best moment, not just of the season, but on the show in a long time for me. Worst moment is every scene where Turlough is lamenting his predicament of being beholden to the Black Garden. Now, I understand we're watching these things right after another. Bang, bang, bang. So it needs to be done at least once per Turlough Black Guardian serial. But I swear to you, I felt like it was being just purely abused as a time filler. And it was just getting really grating because also there was no new information provided from it. And it, to me, was the worst. So actually, it was, when you say worst moment, it would be more like worst moments because it happened more than once.
Yeah, that's fair. Julie.
You know me, Anthony. I'm sorry.
You got 7. Yep, I know.
Best moment. And yes, some of these are a multiple of things. Tegan acting like Puck in Snake Dance. Just Tegan messing around with Nyssa, hiding in and out amongst all the things and all the people in that town in Snake Dance. I just absolutely loved. And really, I love Tegan in Snake Dance in general. And I also really enjoyed any time Maxwell was on screen in Arc of Infinity because, oof, I love that character. And Colin Baker, chef's kiss, so good. Worst moment, if I actually have to truly choose something, it's that very last scene in The King's Demons where the Doctor seems just so incredibly pissed at Tegan and threatens to take her back to Earth. It makes no sense. It's so frustrating. It doesn't feel in character. It feels like something is completely wrong. I don't know what's going on. And what a way to end the season. Do not like it.
Yeah, as we said, he manipulates her.
Yeah, I absolutely can't stand it. It's so annoying. I hate how he treats his companions. And then, yes, seeing the Master yet again. I hated that. I hated that reveal. I didn't see it coming. And I was very upset. All right, I'm done.
All right, Diana.
So I do have a best moment, and I am going to go into it. But I would also like to say that I fully agree with Reilly. And if I had thought of that, that would have been my best moment, is that scene on the TARDIS in Mawdryn Undead. But I also particularly really loved the cabin scene in the beginning of Enlightenment, where we're first meeting the deckhands. And it's like the only time where I really can get in with Five as the Doctor, where he is combing the room for context clues, figuring out in the moment what the heck is going on. The deckhands are providing this really lovely world building while also establishing the mystery of what the heck is going on with this ship. Meanwhile, Turlough is the most uncomfortable any human being has ever been for the duration of the scene. And in fact, it probably only increases throughout the scene as the sailors realize how uncomfortable this little poshy Nance is. And so that whole scene does something very lovely to my brain. I really enjoy it. I thought it was incredibly well done, and especially including the fact that I don't particularly love this Doctor and Turlough is tough. I've liked both of them in that scene, and I thought it was really, really well done. And additionally, the reveal that it was a spaceship. It was a spaceship. Oh, God, so good. Oh, love it. Worst moment, easily, Nyssa and her skivvies. I don't need to see naked Nyssa. I'm mad I saw a naked Nyssa. I think it's terrible. I think it encapsulates kind of just, I don't know what we're doing with companions now, or really, I guess, ever. I guess that's been the eternal question, is what the heck are we doing with them? Because that was horrific and really insulting.
Well, mine are really more fleeting moments. My favorite moment this season was when Lon first takes on the Mara, and you have that scene of Lon and Tegan effectively torturing the snake oil salesman, and they swap voices. That was so very creepy. I think that's the one thing that I just keep coming back to as something that really stuck with me. Worst moment is anytime the Doctor is in the Matrix in Arc of Infinity.
Yes, okay.
Good one.
I like it.
The Matrix used to be this creepy nightmare hellscape where you might get drowned in a puddle. And now it's just a bunch of lines and the person shimmering. I don't quite know what they thought they were doing. It really went against everything that the Matrix has been established to be so far, and I just didn't like it. It sucked. Next up, we have Best Lead Actor, and here we usually go for the Doctor and the Companions as the definition of this. So we have 4 nominees this season. We have Peter Davison as the Doctor, Sarah Sutton as Nyssa, Janet Fielding as Tegan, and Mark Strickson as Turlough. Reilly.
I'm going to go with Janet Fielding again. I mean, I was really thinking about this, and I know that Sarah Sutton has left the show, and I always feel obliged to give this award to someone when they leave, especially if I hadn't given it to them before. But I thought about it, and just once again, the thing that makes Janet Fielding different than the other 3 people that you named is that her performance is the only person out there that honestly feels truly natural. When you think about it, Mark Strickson as Turlough is going way over the top. Davison is just flat. I mean, maybe he's trying to be natural, but they're so flat, there's just nothing there. And I think Sarah Sutton is just being just too greatly restrained by the script. And then if not that, it's the whiplash of what they do with her character in the last 2 serials for her. So when I looked over the entire season, the only person I could look to have like consistency where I believe that was a real person having real emotions was Janet Fielding.
All right, Julie.
My first reaction was, do I have to pick one?
You don't. You could just choose not to award it.
Abstain.
But I will, however, also give it to Janet Fielding solely for Snake Dance.
There you go. Yeah.
I love her. I think it's some of the best work that she has. I find it unfortunate that they did it all while she was possessed. I wish they had let her do some more things as just Tegan, but I will take whatever I can get.
All right, Diana.
I too struggled with this one, mostly for the same reason where none of them super speak to me. I was leaning between Fielding and Nobody Shoot Me, Mark Strickson, mostly because I think that Turlough is kind of a challenging character. And I think he does a pretty darn good job at like being Turlough. And I feel like that's probably very difficult. But kind of like Julie said, Fielding in Snake Dance is just incredible work. She really inhabits that character and really leans into it in what is an actually challenging role with a lot of techniques that are being used to be able to do the voice duplication and all of that to really go in. Opposite Martin Clunes' Lon is really strong work. So I'll give it to Janet Fielding.
So I actually went with Diana's instinct, and I'm naming Mark Strickson as
Whoa.
Turlough.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Do I think Turlough is a likable character? Absolutely not. Does Mark Strickson do a phenomenal job of making him an unlikable character? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Playing that role, he did a great job. And I was really trying hard to separate the performance from the character. And I really believe that was a good performance from him. So, don't love Turlough, but I do think Mark Strickson did a phenomenal job. Next up, we go into Best and Worst Supporting Actor, and this can be anyone from the course of the season, aside from the 4 nominated for Best Lead Actor. So, Reilly, what have you got?
Best Supporting Actor, I'm going with Colette O'Neill as Tana in Snake Dance. Just the stuck-up, lackadaisical royal character is pretty much a stock character. But when I thought about it, she just absolutely nails it. It's like what I say in regards to cooking, that to determine if someone's a very good chef, I would say, make a grilled cheese sandwich. Sure, it's basic, it's common, you've had it a million times, but if someone can just do it perfectly, that is something to admire. So I'm going with her. For worst supporting actor, this is not difficult. It's going to be Gerald Flood as King John in The King's Demons. I'm not going to dwell on it, and I promised myself I would not sing like him again, so I'm shutting up. Move it forward. I'm not going to do it.
I'm going to comment on that because I find it a little sad because I think there were certain moments when he did the robotic thing very, very well. So,
well, fair enough.
I'm a little surprised on that one.
Well, we can agree to disagree on these things.
We can.
On which note, Julie, who have you got?
All right. Well, first off, I said it's too obvious for me to pick one of 3 people, and that's Nicholas Courtney, Michael Goff, or Colin Baker, because that's too obvious. So I'm going to go with Martin Clunes as Lon. I love him. I know some people don't like it, but the poutiness, the ridiculousness, over the top, the I'm lounging because I'm just so important. I adored him throughout all of it, and how serious he got when he was saying some ridiculous things at the end there and wearing the most ridiculous thing. And yet he was totally clued in on his character. Ah, beautiful, glorious. I loved it.
He owned that shower curtain.
Hang on. Julie, did you just say he was clued in on his character?
Oh,
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Oh, boy. All right. Worst supporting actor. I'm probably going to get a boo for one of mine. First off, I have Andrew Boxer as Robin Stewart in Arc of Infinity.
Yeah.
Yeah. We had some comments of why this man? Why does he get all the lines? Questions.
Yeah.
And then I know I'm going to get a lot of flack for this one, but I did not enjoy Linda Barron as Captain Rack.
Oh.
I'm sorry, everyone. I thought there was nothing for me to latch on to that character, didn't identify with that character, did not really enjoy what was going on with that character. Yes, she had a great rack, but that's about it.
Anthony's going to make you walk the plank now.
I was going to say, note to self, Julie is not going to be invited when I get remarried.
I don't see how that's relevant.
You're on my list now, Julie. That's why it's relevant.
Okay, sure.
Diana, over to you.
It's so funny because I'm not going to go into them now because it's funny, but two on my short list of best were both Gerald Flood and Linda Barron, which I think really showcases where we're all coming from in these stories. But Martin Clunes was also on my short list, but the one that we didn't talk about, so I'll talk about mine, is Christopher Brown as Mariner.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's right.
Because it was scary. Oh my gosh. His character is stuck with me. I see that terrifying little plastic face like in the shadows now. That is my new sleep paralysis demon.
That's fair. I get it.
And he did such a good job making sure that he really was as possessed as that character would have been, you know, in that lost sense of it has everything and knows nothing, but also thinks it knows everything. Oh, so good. I really, really enjoyed it. And as far as worst characters, honestly, I know, and this might be a little contentious because I don't know if I was allowed to pick somebody out of this little grouping, but the only name that kept bubbling back up as I kept looking through all of the actors' lists from all of these episodes was Ainley as the Master. And I felt very conflicted because I do love the Master. But honestly, season of weird episodes, but strong supporting actors. And Ainley, I thought was the weakest. So there you go.
That's where we've landed. Well, my best supporting actor is Linda Barron as Captain Rack.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm not surprised.
The way she comes in and absolutely chews up the scenery is magnificent. But the fact that she's able to do that while also being kind of dead behind the eyes is, again, a phenomenal piece of acting to me. I really enjoy that performance. Worst supporting actor, and maybe this character being played this way was incredibly deliberate, but Stephen Garlick as Ibbotson in Mordred Undead.
Okay. Yeah.
The whiny school kid with no spine who seems to have trauma bonded to his bully. Oh boy. And I mean, one, I don't think that character should have existed, but two, he is performed in just such an annoying way. I do not enjoy that. All right. Next up, best and worst villains. And the nominees here are Omega for Arc of Infinity, the Mara and or Lon for Snake Dance, the Black Guardian for the entirety of the Black Guardian trilogy, and then we have the minor villains of each of those stories, so Mordrin for Mordrin Undead, Terminus Incorporated for Terminus, so I thought that the company was the villain in that story, Captain Rack for Enlightenment, and the Master for the King's Demons. Reilly, go.
Wow, that is one hell of a weak list. Ooh. Well, I guess for best villain out of that bunch, I'm going to go with Terminus Incorporated. I'm a sucker for the corporation as a soulless evil entity abusing people trope. And while I enjoyed Modron, Terminus, their goal was much worse than the goal of Modron and his folks who just wanted to die. So it's clearly Terminus. Worst villain is clearly Turlough. Oh, wait, I guess I can't pick him for that?
No,
he's not on the list of choices.
He's not among the villains.
Okay. I was getting confused with that. Well, in that case, the worst villain is the Master. His disguises are dumb. His plan to prevent Magna Carta is incredibly dumb. He is just dumb. I am tired of him, and he needs to be put on a shelf for a long while.
All right, I thought there was more to that, Reilly. I thought you were going to keep going with that rant.
That's the end of my rants. That is it.
I was like 20 minutes later. Julie, who've you got?
Best villain? I'm actually going to go with the Mara. I love that the Mara is this intangible, otherworldly, gets in your head type of villain. And I just think there's something wonderful about that. And also we get to see a lot of people get overtaken by that and see how they react and respond to that, which is also very wonderful. So that's my favorite, but not Lon. Lon is not really the villain per se. He's an elite person. It's fine. He's just there.
It's like Black Orchid. Maybe the real villain all along was the aristocracy.
Yes. Yes, exactly. But the worst villain, I agree with Reilly. It's the Master. It's absolutely the Master. There's no other thing to say but other than the Master.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'm done.
Diana.
So I thought the best villain was Modron, and mostly because their only goal was to die, which means that they don't care what they're sacrificing. Mm-hmm. And it kind of leaves that threat a lot bigger, in the complete opposite of the soulless corporate, because I almost chose them for the bad guy as well, because the big threat seems real, both with the corporate aspect, but also with, I don't care if it kills you. I don't care if I'm going to kill them. I want to die. And you're the only way that I can make that happen. I think that's a really interesting heaviness for that villain angle. And then the worst villain, to me, easily, no questions asked, is the Black Guardian.
Yeah.
The fact that Enlightenment would have been a 10 for me if the Black Guardian hadn't bookended the story, which is the worst bits. And maybe we'd all feel differently about Turlough if he was doing things of his own volition and not because he's like pussy whipped by the Black Guardian. But, you know, without the Black Guardian, things might have been able to stand on their own better. And I think that I get what they were doing with it. I just thought it was a bad choice.
That's fair. Well, firstly, the real villains of the season are the co-costume designers from Mordrin Undead, Amy Roberts and Richard Croft, for putting that fucking bird on the Black Guardian's hat. However, my favorite, or the best villain in my opinion, is, like Julie said, the Mara. I know when we did Snake Dance, we had a fairly long and robust conversation around trying to figure out exactly what the Mara was. And I think the fact that is still somewhat ambiguous adds to the creepiness of the Mara. And it was called out earlier, you never quite know who the Mara is going to possess. Seeing Tegan acting so out of character is pretty scary. I think the Mara is a really cool conceptual villain. As for the worst villain, I am going to jump on the bandwagon. It is the Master this season. Reilly said it well. I like the Master when the Master is well played, has a good plan, and actually has some ambition. In this one, he's traipsing around medieval England because he wants to stop Magna Carta, because that might destabilize the development of the world. The Doctor even calls it out. It's small-time villainy by the Master's standard. And as I said when we did the King's Demons, that would have been a character position much better filled by the monk. The Master didn't need to be there. The Master doesn't really work there. Therefore, the worst villain is the Master, in my opinion. Our next award are my two favorites. The Douglas Camfield Award for Best Director and the Richard Martin Award for Worst Director, so the Dougie and the Dickie. Our nominations are Ron Jones for Arc of Infinity, Fiona Cumming for Snake Dance and/or Enlightenment, Peter Moffat for Mordrin Undead, Mary Ridge for Terminus, and Tony Virgo for The King's Demons. Reilly, over to you.
Best director for me is Mary Ridge for Terminus, and my reasons are that the sets looked absolutely great and not too cramped. It really made the whole spaceship, space station thing really feel a proper good size for what was going on there. The ability to make the extras who play the Lazars actually look like a truly large crowd was really impressive how they set it up on that set. And the level of spooky suspense in the first episode was top notch. Something that I haven't felt on the show for maybe 1.5 seasons. Now, worst director is difficult because I feel like most of my issues with this season are from purely the writing perspective. So when I say worst director here, I'm really not saying that this person did a poor job. It's just compared to everyone else, there are a few things that I would have done differently and that I would have preferred differently. That's all. So I'm going with Fiona Cumming for Enlightenment. Now, I didn't pick Tony Virgo for The King's Demons because, let's be honest, no director could rectify that piece of shit, okay? That's just an impossible task, so I can't blame Tony for that. Now, going back to Fiona Cumming and Enlightenment, to me, Enlightenment had a couple of visual problems. For example, when you have a serial where it's like a boat movie mixed with a chase movie, like a U-boat movie mixed with a chase movie, you should feel some sort of pressure constantly through like cramped quarters. And that only seemed to show up in the cabin for the crew, but everywhere else we're having large ballroom parties and things like that. Also, there should be pressure from the pursuit of the finish line. And while I understand these are Eternals, this is the thing they're doing to actually feel passion. You would think they would show maybe more passion, or there should be more pressure at the risk of losing. And I just don't feel like that was there. The entire tone felt very leisurely. And I would have expected, like I said, a more fast-paced and a pressurized tone for basically what is a chase story. There you are.
All right. Julie.
We do disagree. My Dougie goes to Fiona Cumming. And honestly, I think it's for both Snake Dance and Enlightenment. They both have some problems, but I really enjoyed, obviously, so much of Snake Dance, including, I think the snakes special effects, for the most part, were really well done. The overlaying of voices and making that very creepy was also very well done. Just a lot of good things going on there. In Enlightenment, I really enjoyed some of the space sequences. I enjoyed the space boats and spaceships. I know Reilly wasn't necessarily the biggest fan when we covered it, but I thought they looked fantastic. And I didn't feel like things were too open, especially as these are also spaceships. So they're going to be a little bit different than our normal boats, despite what they were trying to do from getting authenticity into it. Yeah, that's a bunch of bullshit. They're a bunch of basically rich people doing bullshit things. And correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't think I'm wrong. All right. The Dickie goes to Tony Virgo. You say that you couldn't have saved anything, and you might be right, but it was rushed. It was disjointed. The fight choreography was terrible. The companions didn't work well together. There's just not anything redeeming about it. And even a good director would be able to get something out of their actors, and we didn't get that much. So yeah.
Julie, that's a good counterpoint. You're absolutely right. The fight choreography left a lot to be desired.
And I know that they sometimes have someone to help with that, but my gosh, the director can say, that shit, do better.
All right, Diana, let's hear your nominations here.
The Dougie goes to Fiona Cumming for me. And while I was listening to everything Reilly had to say negative about Enlightenment, I was thinking to myself, that's exactly the reasons I love it. It's that whole thing, the expectation that it should be quick paced, but these weirdos are so fucking bored that they don't even know how to have high blood pressure anymore. They just literally can't get all that excited about anything because it always happens. I really liked that counterbalance to what is also a deadly chase, but nothing's exciting anymore. So it's okay. So I really, really did enjoy that. And I really loved her work on Snake Dance. I think both of them were really well done and conceived. I think that you can see the thought and the intent behind everything that's done in those stories, which is why my Dickie goes to Mary Ridge for Terminus.
I love it.
Because we leaned way too hard into the leprosy thing for a time where it's not okay. We're going to keep the visuals that way. We're keeping the whole ship that way. It was just so heavy-handed, and pulling back on some of that just as a concept anyway, but absolutely no, absolutely not for me. Bye-bye.
Well, for me, I'm in complete agreement with Diana on both Fiona Cumming and Mary Ridge. Julie summed up a lot of what Fiona Cumming did really well. Diana really filled it in with whatever was left. There's not a lot more for me to say. And Mary Ridge, again, I think Terminus was the weakest story of the season. Yes, Reilly made some good points around making those crowds of Lazars looking bigger than they are. But there was a lot about that story that just didn't quite work for me. And by the later episodes, we have spaceship walls being built out of what appeared to be black drop cloths. So there were things that could have been done a lot better in that story for me. And I do think that she was the weakest link in a season of otherwise fairly competent directors. And she's not the worst we've had on the show ever, but among this crowd, I don't think she's the best. Right. Our next award is the Don Smith Award for Unnecessary Fan Wank. Reilly.
I don't have anything. I thought about it. I thought about it a lot. And I was going in certain directions, but I was like, yeah, but that's not wankish enough. It isn't. So I really can't say, like, I looked hard, usually a gold mine for that is any episode with the Time Lords. And I still really couldn't find anything from it that I thought was truly unnecessary. So unfortunately, I have nothing for this.
All right, Julie.
I think I'm in agreement with Reilly. I couldn't think of anything that really warranted it. However, I will say, it's not fan wank, but why did you have to do that to the Matrix? Why did we have to take something that was great, that was Time Lord-ish, and then we did what to it? But as to new established fan wank, I don't know that I've seen any.
Actually, would the return of Omega and the, again, return of the Master qualify as unnecessary fan wank? I mean, it surely was unnecessary.
We'll come back to that when it gets to me, Reilly.
Sure. Yeah, no problem.
Because I don't want to skip over Diana. Diana, anything you wish to nominate here?
I don't think it's totally unnecessary because I like what it does for the plot. That being said, I didn't know where else I could put in this sentence the moment where the brig touches himself.
That's fair.
Like, it works for the plot, and I actually really like that aspect of the plot, but it's still the brig touching himself.
I mean, I'm loving the way that you're phrasing that and how it ties into the wank part of fan wank.
That was what I spotted as well.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm just fully going in for the return of Omega. Unnecessary, added nothing to the character. His story was so finished with the three doctors. No one ever thought that they would bring him back. And even though they did, they couldn't be bothered to properly explain to the audience who haven't seen this character in 10 years exactly who and what he is. So unnecessary. It appeals only to the tiniest slither of fans at the time. Just why? Why? At least with the Master, he shows up every year. His plans are getting increasingly baroque and stupid, but you just know that's going to be something that he does. Whereas Omega was truly unnecessary.
With your mention of Omega winning this award, I have a suspicion that he's going to be winning the award a couple years from now.
Possibly. Well, that brings us into our final awards, the best and worst uses of music. Reilly.
I'm going with something that I consider not just the best on its own or the worst on its own. It's the best and the worst together. And that is in Modern Undead, where Turlough attempts to throw away his little light communicator, and the music comes in and hits you with these strings dramatically. Hunk, hunk, with each of his attempts to throw it away perfectly timed with his arm. Wow. Both truly terrible as well as incredibly funny at the same time, making it, to me, the best and worst use of music. Boom. No one's ever going to be able to put one moment to qualify for both.
Amazing. Julie. That good. Note to self, leave extremely awkward pause in there.
My internet's acting up.
Because Julie's having some technical issues, we're going to go out of sequence. Diana. Let's hear your best and worst use of music, if you have any.
This is a new challenge because I always listen to Julie and go, yeah, probably that. For example, I went through my notebook and I wrote down this season which ones Julie said bad. And then there was one where Reilly said bad. And the one that both of them said bad was Modern Undead. So that one gets worst. Best. I decided that purely for King John's song, that one piece of music is the best.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That's fair.
I like your method.
Julie, we're coming back to you.
Oh,
what have you got?
Thank you. Well, best use of music. I really enjoyed Enlightenment in general for music. I think it was very atmospheric, but specifically when Turlough is floating in space after he threw himself overboard, I really enjoyed that music. I thought it was wonderful. It was very, what's the term? Melancholy in a way while he's floating around out there. Oh, I thought it was beautiful. Worst use of music? Yes, absolutely. Diana was completely right. It's the entirety of Modern Undead, because what in the world are we doing Modern Undead with the music? It's awful. And I also will put a shout out there. Usually I don't do this with sounds as much, but the weird chime noise whenever curtains were drawn in Snake Dance.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Not a fan.
I think those were probably whomever was doing special sounds as opposed to the person scoring it, which is usually Dick Mills. But yes, we'll allow it.
I needed to say it at some point. So there you go.
That's fair. Well, best use of music for me is We Sing in Praise of Total War. I love that song. It's fantastic. Now, the worst use of music is all of the synths used in The King's Demons.
Fair. Uh-huh.
Because,
That's good. Yeah.
you know, you have that great song that's done on a lute and it fits in with the time period, and then nothing else in the score for that entire fucking serial ties in with a medieval time period. I don't mind synths when it's setting appropriate. It's not setting appropriate in the medieval period.
And again, you can do it with certain things. And I said it during the episode, but Tangerine Dream doing Legend is wonderful, but it fits that type of film, which you could call medieval because it's fantasy.
Right.
And it fits within what you would think of as potentially that time period, give or take. But it's still not the same because this one was trying to feel like it was medieval, while as Legend was 80s and it felt 80s.
Right. There's another example of that I wanted to bring up since you brought up this topic again. Jerry Goldsmith did the score to a sports movie that took place in 1950s Indiana. It was done in the 80s. The movie's called Hoosiers. So you're imagining 1950s Indiana, you're thinking truly natural instruments. But no, the entire score is nothing but like synthesized in like drum machines.
So just coming back to the King's Demons for a second. So King John's song was written by Peter Howell. And I read in the last couple of days something I hadn't read before. And the reason there are co-composers on this is Peter Howell wrote that, scored it, and then got pulled into another project. So Jonathan Gibbs came in to do the rest. And I think he missed the brief. That's my opinion. With our awards out of the way, we move into a recap of our metrics. And before we talk about scoring, let's recap our running metrics. This season, we had no Jelly Babies. So the Jelly Baby count is 0 with a full series count stagnant at 97. Same deal with Quarry Query, no quarries. So our total series count is again stagnant at 29. I'll explain later, we didn't quite have as many as season 19, but we had 4 of them, which brings our total series count for that up to 20. Now, lastly, the camp count. Our total season camp count was 27.5. 10 points of which came from Enlightenment, 6 points of which came from Mordrin Undead, and 6 came from the King's Demons. So some high camp stories there. The last time we had one that high was season 17, and 27.5 actually makes it the third highest season camp count after seasons 3 and 17.
Anthony, if you would have said the camp count for the season is 27.5 billion, I would have believed you.
Yeah, I know, right? Looking at our scores for the season, Diana, your highest was Enlightenment with 9, followed by Mordrin Undead, 8, Snake Dance, 5.5, Arc of Infinity, 5, King's Demons, 4, and Terminus, 3, giving you a season average of 5.75. Julie, your highest, Snake Dance, 7.5, tied with Enlightenment, actually. You gave those two equal footing. Followed by Mordrin Undead, 6.5, Arc of Infinity, 4, Terminus 2, and the King's Demons a lowly 1 for a season average of 4.75.
Oof.
Reilly, your highest was Mordrin Undead with an 8, followed by Terminus at 7, Arc of Infinity at 5, Snake Dance at 4, Enlightenment at 3.5, and you also gave the King's Demons a lowly 1, which means your season average is also 4.75. For me, I gave Enlightenment a 9. That's my highest, much like Diana. Mordrin Undead gets a 7.5. King's Demons is a 6.
Crime.
Arc of Infinity is at a 5, tied with Snake Dance. And then Terminus as a 3, which gave me a season average of 5.92. So I liked the season the best, but you plug those 4 averages together and we get a total season average of 5.29. Now, I know you're all asking, so I already did this. I plugged that into our season totals and did a little compare and contrast. And every single one of us had an average for this season lower than anything we've had before.
Oh.
Technically, for me, it was tied with season 15, which also ends up with 5.92. But every single one of us had a lower average than before, and it is, based on our completely arbitrary scores, the worst season we've had. Followed by season 17 at 5.47, and then season 19 at 5.71. So I'm really hoping Davison does better with season 21, because otherwise he is going to be our worst rated Doctor so far.
I don't think that that's going to change things. I think he will be the worst rated Doctor.
And just to also reiterate, 2 stories from this season made it into our bottom 10 of all time.
Oof.
So coming in at the top of that list is Terminus with 3.75. And then The King's Demons is actually our 6th lowest rated story so far at 3. So this was not a winner of a season. And that brings us to the end of everyone's least favorite section, except for Beardo Beatnik. Love you, Beardo. Next up, on to our questions from social media. And I've once again grouped these into several categories. So we'll start with our general season questions. Then we have a question on the Doctor. We had a lot of questions on the companions. We had one on the Mara, and then one under a category that I'm just calling WTF. We'll take last. So, under general season questions, we're going to start with Joseph Staub, who asks, after lamenting the inconsistent tone and quality of season 19, do you think that season 20 was a step in the right direction, or was this season just as aimless as the last one?
I think about the same. I really thought about this, and I was looking back at the episodes of last season, and what I came to realize is that I don't think that it's gotten worse. I think it's pretty much stayed the same. It just feels worse because with season 19, you're expecting, okay, they got a lot of work to do. They got to balance out these companions with this new Doctor. Got to give them time to settle, figure out what the hell they're doing. So you have a higher expectation going to season 20, and it just turns out to be the same kind of mess. So I think that tone and quality, if you look at them separately, if you didn't watch from season 19 to go into straight into season 20, would be about, the same. But when you watch it back to back, season 20 just feels worse because you were just expecting improvement.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to disagree with that. I mean, I'll agree they're probably about level overall, but yeah, I was really hoping for some upswings. And with all of the returning elements, you would hope that the nostalgia factor would help here, but it just doesn't. And I think that also answers Kieran James Evans' question, who just asked whether it was an improvement or regression compared to season 19.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's about the same. Whether or not it's as aimless as the last one, that phrasing is a little interesting because there's a little bit here where they attempted to give it some sort of direction with Turlough, or at least what they seem to think that was going in a direction, but it's really inconsistent and the quality's not there.
I think that's the kicker, is that it's really inconsistent, because I know for me, at least, the swing of the polar opposites of my scoring this season, I got a 3 and a 9 in there, with the 9 being, if they just dropped the Black Guardian, very close to a 10. And so I think that it's really the inconsistency that makes this season so weak. Whereas last season was building, it's like, I guess, getting into what Reilly said, building into what? And they didn't have a goal. And they still don't seem to have a goal. I don't know what they're trying to build to.
And I think this dovetails into R.L. Gray's question quite nicely. And he asks, was JNT's determination to include something from the Doctor's past in each story a successful or worthwhile endeavor, especially considering doing so leaned heavily on the Black Guardian, featured in 3 stories, and the Master, who we had seen in 2 stories in each of the previous 2 seasons?
It was bad. It was bad. It was not successful. Okay, let's take a look here. So you have Omega, who we haven't seen, to Anthony's point, in 10 years, for those who are watching real time. And they didn't do anything with him. So that is not successful. You bring in the Black Guardian and really doesn't interact with the Doctor until the third story in any sort of capacity. So is it really bringing in the Black Guardian against the Doctor when the Doctor doesn't even realize it 3 stories in? And then obviously the Master, we really just don't like this Master. He's not a good Master and nothing really makes sense. So it was not successful.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the concept wasn't a bad one, right? Bring a returning element into each story from the Doctor's past to celebrate 20 years. Okay, I don't dislike that idea, but it was really poorly executed.
But we got the Brigadier, and that was great.
We did get the Brig.
Even if they did get rid of his moustache.
Only half of him got rid of the moustache. His other half still had the moustache. We're okay.
So you can tell them apart.
Yes.
Yeah, it says a lot that there was a story that could possibly make me really dislike the Master, but the Magna Carta plot was just beyond the pale. And the fact that I just even straight up forgot that Omega was even in this season, it says how little impact Omega really had at the end of the day. He was here and gone, no big deal. The Black Guardian was just boring. And I would argue that Turlough could be a much more interesting character if he had not been all wrapped up in the Black Guardian. And I really think he drags everything down because it's the same conversation every time. Turlough, kill him. I don't want to kill him. I don't want to kill him. I don't want to. That's all it was for the whole of those 3 episodes. And so it was all bad.
I think this also goes into Ben Flay's question. Ben asked, does this season feel like an anniversary season?
No.
An anniversary of pain.
The Brig stuff does.
Yeah.
The Brig felt like it, but I think I'm also partially jaded with the fact that I've only experienced anniversaries in the modern sense.
Mm-hmm.
And let's be real, modern Who goes hard for anniversaries.
Yeah.
And so I didn't feel it as much, but especially because the shit they're bringing back wasn't brought back well.
I will say we are going hard for an anniversary in the next story when we actually get to the true 20th anniversary with the 5 Doctors.
Yeah,
that's true.
And Anthony, if you hadn't really mentioned that this was an anniversary, I would have never guessed that there was an anniversary.
Yeah. I think Sean Collicutt's question also plays in quite nicely here. Why do you think season 20 had some promising ideas but failed in execution?
I don't know if I think that 20 had promising ideas.
That's what I had written down.
And I figured someone might, so I wanted to get it in first.
I actually think bringing back the Black Guardian was a promising idea. The problem is they used him wrong. So you look back to The Key to Time, season 16, you hear about him at the start of the season, and he's like this looming threat the whole season, but you don't actually see him until the very last scene. What they did here was have him constantly pop up berating Turlough, but not really being this all-powerful big bad that he should be. I would argue they used him wrong. I think the return of Omega could have been handled a lot better. I think if they had re-explained and reintroduced the character to the audience and told us why he matters and why coming back is actually going to be a universe-ending event, that could have been more effective as well.
If you have to explain it to your audience, it's not effective.
Yeah. I do think the return of the Mara was effective, and there was just no saving the King's Demons.
And bringing back the Mara was just a season ago.
Exactly. Actually, I'll rephrase. The only way to save the King's Demons is to sub out the Master and put the Monk in there.
Mm-hmm.
I think the difficulty in old classic Who, right, to do these anniversaries, again, when you're not having repeats on television and everything, is other than bringing back actual Doctors, which I know is coming up, people aren't going to remember one-off villains. They're just not going to. And so if that's how you're going to try and do an anniversary season, you either have to, yes, unfortunately, bring back like Daleks or Cyber or something big, or you're going to have to do something more clever than what they ended up doing.
But I think they could have gone harder in the Briggs episode because there's so much that's still on Earth, but they could have really loaded shit into that episode to make it feel more celebratory.
And the other thing that's missing, ultimately, is the King's Demons was not meant to be the season finale.
Mm-hmm.
We were meant to get a Dalek story. And then Industrial Action at the BBC stops that from happening. So we don't get that Dalek story until next season.
I think that probably would have made me, even not knowing if it's good or bad yet, or if it's well done or not, But, based on the past 2 seasons, let's take a guess. I think something like the Daleks, as much as they're often overused, would have, honestly, better than the Master.
And we haven't seen the Daleks since the beginning of season 17.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the Master we saw twice in season 18, twice in season 19, once again in 20. But Julie, I think you're right. With an anniversary, you need to bring back the iconic.
Yeah.
RTD kind of got away with it for the 60th because he actually, I think, did a fairly good job of reintroducing the Toymaker and explaining who he was to the audience in a way that it didn't feel patronizing or like an info dump.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
But equally, Omega, there's no real good way of doing that at this point, particularly when you don't have the quality of writers. I feel like an anniversary special needs a Terrence Dicks or a Robert Holmes or a Russell T Davies or a Stephen Moffat. We got the B team here.
Yeah.
Guy Lambert, and again, we've sort of covered some of this, but he wants to know, if you were John Nathan Turner, and take a moment to embrace this, how would you have made the 20th season?
All right, I'm taking a moment to embrace this right now.
I don't want to take that moment to embrace it because I don't want to be J&T.
No Turlough, no Black Guardian or White Guardian. Use the time that was taken up with those characters and focus it on the companions, for God's sakes. Just let's know more about them personally. And you know what? Come on, write better send-offs for companions too. I mean, this just feels like it's mailed in. Those are things that would have been tremendous improvements that would have taken this, what I was 4.75, could have at least got it up to a 6.
Yeah, I agree. I almost think what I would have done differently is we have this big anniversary special coming up. Let's do a proper lead into it. Let's seed ideas for that throughout the course of the season.
Here's my question on that. Was television in this era doing that kind of long form setting up in a season kind of a storytelling yet? Because that is very common in modern television. You know what I'm saying? Whereas that is something that would even have occurred to them then, that they could do that.
I think we're starting to see more serialized storytelling. So in season 18 and the beginning of season 19, the trilogy that was effectively the return of the Master. And you still see elements of that.
Yeah, they do like a mini arc and that kind of thing. But the difference in a structured mini arc, which, let's be real, they're not doing too well. It is a little bit heavy-handed. So I can't imagine that the idea of sprinkling anything works with this team.
Yeah, you're right that they weren't doing it at the time, but in the spirit of the question, how would I do it? That's how I would do it.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Not how J&T should have done it. How would you do it?
Yeah.
I agree a lot with what Reilly said. I would at least take out the Black Guardian bit. I wouldn't say Turlough has grown on me, but I think if they had done different things with Turlough, I wouldn't have come out hating Turlough so much. And if you could have done something different with him that wasn't just whiny and I'm doing whatever the Black Guardian is telling me to do, except very poorly, I could have gotten more on board.
Yeah.
Who Turlough is in my head, despite who he appears to be on the screen. Doesn't have anything to do with the Black Guardian. And he's just kind of a Turlough first kind of a thing instead of this weird Turlough first, but I'm also a mega coward. Just a total cynical little asshole. And I'd love to see him be in this situation where he's playing mind games with the Doctor, where he thinks he has the upper hand, in that kind of like last quarter of Survivor kind of mental game that could be happening between these two alien species. But instead, we have a weak Doctor and a weak Turlough instead of two strong characters, because I think they could really work together because they're both assholes. And so I think it could be really interesting,
Let's see how that dynamic changes going forward. And then lastly, on this particular theme, Mark Dunstan asks, and I guess this is really around rewatchability, which story in this season would you watch several times? That was his exact wording. I'm going to assume, which story would you rewatch, basically?
Snake Dance. It's fun. I really enjoyed a lot of aspects of it. And I would sit there and make this like bright green cocktail to drink along with my lady. I'll call her a queen, even though I don't think she's necessarily a queen. But I would just sit there, drink my drink, and be like, oh yeah, bitches, let's go.
Are we going to call the drink Snake Venom?
Yes.
Yeah, do it.
Yes, we are.
Reilly, are you rewatching anything?
Yeah, I think Terminus.
Oh, interesting. I was fully expecting you to say Mordrin Undead.
Oh, I was trying to make a dirty joke there. Okay. Actually, probably go with Mordrin Undead. I mean, this is my favorite one. I don't know. Honestly, I do like the direction a lot better in Terminus. And because I was close with both of them, I guess I'll go with Terminus because also Maldron, you have to suffer through Ibbotson in like the first episode of the serial. So I guess if I'm going to watch something several times, Terminus would be the least bothersome.
Yeah, I'm watching Enlightenment, definitely. So good.
I'm
so
with
good.
Enlightenment, and it's not just because of Captain Rack's Rack. It's because I genuinely enjoy the story. Plus, I wanted to say Captain Rack's Rack.
I know
again.
you did.
Yeah.
Are we going to get a metric for that?
How many times Anthony says Captain Rack's Rack?
We're up to 3 now.
We move into the one question we had on the Doctor, and Mark Dunstan asked here, which story do you think Davison nailed the part of the Doctor in this season?
And I want to hear from Reilly first.
Yeah.
That was my comment. Just hysterical laughter. Use the Jonas Jameson gif from the early Spider-Man's laughing. That's my answer for that. You can move along.
No actual answer? Because I have an answer.
Okay, if it's not clear, my answer is like none. I'm sorry. I'm just having a problem with Davison. I wanted to like him. I really, really did. But I'm just thoroughly unimpressed.
Well, I'm going to say it's in Modern Undead and his reaction to them basically holding Tegan and Nyssa hostage and how frustrated, how annoyed, and how angry he gets about it is very kind of Doctor-ish, right? And then obviously his, response to like killing them and everything and doing what they want him to do for the sake of saving his companions and all this other stuff. I think that's very Doctor-ish to me. I think Davidson did a good job there.
I think the problem I have is at no point does he consistently nail the part across a whole story.
I could see that though. Mm-hmm.
He has doctorish moments. We've brought up, I think it was Diana brought up when he and Turlough are in the crew cabin in Enlightenment. There is the moment where he's going to sacrifice himself so that Mordrin and company can end their suffering. Even the moment where he effectively realizes what the Master's plan is in The King's Demons, and his reaction is, really? This is so small for you. What are you doing? There are moments through the course of the season where I think he does play it very doctorish, but I don't think in any one story it's consistent.
Mm-hmm.
Diana, you got anything?
Yeah, I mostly agree. I think it's tough when this Doctor, probably from just every direction he is getting, don't be like 4. And 4 was so strong. And so all you can have is a weak Doctor. And, nothing's really going to work if you're not the central pillar of the episode. And that's who the Doctor is supposed to be. And in no story do I really think the Doctor is 100% necessary.
Yeah.
He's helpful sometimes, but it's the combination of he's not consistent. He's got some pockets, but it's also just not a very well-written Doctor either.
Well, that moves us into the questions about the companions. And there are 4 that I want to take together because they have very, very similar themes. So, to read through all 4, the Whovian gal, aka our friend Naomi, asks, would you have liked to see more episodes with just Tegan and Nyssa as companions? Citrine Dragonfly, also known as Cat, asks, do you think that the season would have worked better if it had stayed just Nyssa and Tegan, or if the season's companions were one of the 2 with Turlough? If the latter, if you put Mordrin and the whole Black Guardian trilogy first, then redid the other episodes with Turlough swapped out for either Nyssa or Tegan. Then JJ asks, this season has seen the return of Tegan, the introduction of Turlough, departure of Nyssa, and the introduction of Chameleon. How do you feel the companions have been managed in this season in terms of arrivals and departures? Should any of them have had either more or less time? And then Kieran James Evans asks, did the right companion leave? So, effectively, should it have stayed Tegan and Nyssa? Should the mix have been different? General thoughts on the companion mix here.
It should have been Tegan and Nyssa. I feel like they missed a great opportunity there. They've been through a lot already. We could have built on that. have more scenes with them together. Like, did that even happen this season? Where we've oftentimes have split of the TARDIS crew. Has there ever been a time where it was Tegan and Nyssa together, other than with the Brig and Modron Undead? I feel like I would like to have seen them have their own little adventure or subplot while the Doctor was dealing with another half of the story. That would have been great. Just get rid of Turlough. Just get rid of him. Unnecessary, not successful, and they're doing a bad job of doing send-offs. Let's be honest, they've been doing a poor job of handling the companions since the three, Tegan, Nyssa, and Adric.
Let's be honest, it was way before that anyway. I don't disagree. I think it should be Tegan and Nyssa. Now, I will say what they could have done if they had taken the Black Guardian out, you could have still made Turlough a 3-story mini-villain, but without the Black Guardian. And have him travel around with them, but ultimately leave after that 3rd story. And I think that could have been interesting. But again, have Tegan and Nyssa be the ones synced up, them being the ones having their little side adventure. But I don't think you necessarily have to completely get rid of Turlough, but have him only stay for those 3 stories.
I do like that idea with Turlough. I think that would have worked really well. On the other hand, it's time for the women to be gone. And that's because the Doctor's making them miserable and they deserve better.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate that while I didn't love the way that Nyssa went out in many regards, one of the things that I did like about her supposed maturing is that she kept telling the Doctor to fuck off. And part of the reason that she decided to stay on a fucking medical ship in the middle of fucking nowhere is because that life sounded better than being stuck in the TARDIS, which is bigger ad infinitum on the inside than it is on the outside. And it's still not large enough for her to get away from the Doctor. So good on her for leaving. Tegan needs to figure it out and get gone because, they're not having a good time. And that's why Turlough should be on the TARDIS with the Doctor so they can both make each other miserable. And I think that would also be really entertaining. And Chameleon's just a mistake.
I love how Chameleon's such an afterthought. Yeah, I think I agree with Diana primarily here. I would rather see Nyssa stay over Tegan, and I think I would have liked to have seen a couple more stories with just the 2 of them, so maybe they could have got some time together. I don't dislike Julie's idea of Turlough as being a mini-villain, and you could probably retool those 3 stories to Turlough being an exile on Earth, realizing the Doctor has come from another world and spends 3 stories trying to steal the TARDIS, basically. It's smaller time villainy than trying to kill the Doctor, but it would work. And then maybe at the end, Turlough gets to go home without stealing the TARDIS, and he gets some sort of redemption. But also, yes, everything Diana said about Turlough and the Doctor making each other miserable, I'm in for. Next up, a question specifically about Turlough that comes from our friend Josa, who asks, how much do any of you still want to slap Turlough so hard that he's no longer ginger?
100%. Absolutely. I'm in. Let's do it.
Guilty as charged.
I'm okay, honestly. I'll wait my turn. I'll at least go 3rd.
And, I thought Turlough showed some promise in the King's Demons. So there's that. So maybe slightly less. I still want to slap him, but just not so hard that he's no longer ginger.
Yeah, he definitely deserves to be slapped several times in succession, but maybe there can be some lighter blows.
Exactly. Yeah. Next, we have a couple of questions around costumes. Citrine Dragonfly asks, best and worst companion outfit this season? And Josa asks, favorite Nyssa outfit?
Best fit of the season is also the best Nyssa outfit, which is when she was wearing the suede little blue skirted flight suit looking ensemble.
Yeah, that was in Modron Undead. Yeah, that's what I had down.
Which simultaneously then leads into the worst, which is when she takes that off and goes around in her underwear. Both best and worst.
Although I will give a shout out to Tegan in the fur coat.
Oh, yeah.
Because that was so beautiful.
Slay.
Absolutely.
I'm going to say Tegan's white number that she wears for most of the season is...
It's practically a tube top.
Well, and it's also monumentally impractical. Quite how she got through the grimy station that was Terminus without that having a single stain on it, I will never know. There's some space magic happening there.
Space bleach.
Nanobots, space bleaching the costume.
Yep.
For me, that's the worst companion outfit. I agree on the favorite Nyssa outfit with Diana. Best companion outfit, Yeah, probably that Nissa one as well, with an honorable mention to the Tegan outfit in The King's Demons, which is wonderfully 80s. Last on the question of companions, our friend Paul Arthur, Doctor Who 60s, 70s, and 80s, and I think this is probably a question specifically aimed at Julie. He asks, who wins in a fight, K9 or Chameleon? Bear in mind, Chameleon doesn't have a dick for K9 to shoot.
Well, K9 still wins because Chameleon can't even walk. Chameleon can't go anywhere. So K9 wins.
Arguably, Chameleon could probably turn into K9, and then you have K9 versus K9.
And again, Chameleon still can't move. So,
Yeah.
like, sorry. But no, I mean, K9 is the bestest boy. He's absolutely the bestest boy. And I love K9. So Chameleon came off as too nice when he was in his form without being controlled, quote unquote, by the Master. Whereas K9 was willing to be really snarky and sassy to the Doctor, and the Doctor deserves that.
Yeah, Paul is right. Chameleon doesn't have a dick for K9 to shoot. He is a Ken doll down there. However, it doesn't matter. K9 still has a blaster.
Yep. K9 wins.
I think that K9 and Chameleon would be friends.
Yeah,
I
probably.
think both of their personalities would be like, let's talk, bro.
I think it might be a slightly toxic friendship because I do think K9 would probably call Chameleon stupid at various occasions.
Oh, 100%. K9 would take out his like subservient insecurities totally out on Chameleon. He doesn't even work. He can't even move. He's a human that does nothing. I'm just a 10 dog.
Yeah, I'm just thinking back to the Armageddon Factor where he literally called the computer controlling Zeus a stupid computer. Like, yeah, that's exactly how he would talk to Chameleon. Next up, not on companions, but about a villain, Josa asks, which is the better Mara story, Kinder or Snake Dance? Reilly, I know you had some strong opinions here.
I did, yeah. It was interesting. I was not keen on Kinda at first, but then after watching Snake Dance, which I didn't think was poor, I just realized that if you're doing a Mara story, Kinda is a better Mara story than Snake Dance, in my opinion. I think there's a lot more mystery involved. You were talking about how the Mara is interesting because you still can't quite figure it out. And when you think about those weird scenes where Tegan is taking a nap and we get all very abstract and then we're trying to figure out, we're all always asking the question, what is happening? And even though there are a little bit of rules around it, there's still so many places it can go. While Snake Dance felt pretty much down the line. Like you already knew what was going on in the background while you were just waiting for the rest of the main characters to catch up to figure out what the plot was. With Kinda, everyone's still trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
I think I agree, actually. I think if you're just saying what's a better story, I had more fun with Snake Dance. But if you're actually talking specifically about the Mara, I will say that Kinda did lean into the weird more. And there were some really great sequences when they were in that weird dimension with some of those really creepy characters that were all white. I think that was very interesting and probably better from a Mara perspective. But story itself, I like Snake Dance more because I just had more fun.
I rated Kinder higher than Snake Dance. And I believe I was the only one who did that. So I'm going to stand by my stance. I do think Kinder was a better Mara story. I do think other aspects of Kinder were better. The complete mental breakdown that we see as part of that was really quite terrifying, culminating in you can't mend people. And to the point, the Mara does feel a bit more intangible and unknown in Kinder than it does in Snake Dance. We get a bit more about the history and some hints at what it might be. So yeah, Kinder.
I'll kind of go with Julie and say that I like Snake Dance better, but that Kinda is probably the better Mara story for everything y'all have said, again, where it's more mysterious and you don't know what's happening. Snake Dance, you kind of do, but I still like Snake Dance better, but I will concede that Kinda is the better Mara story.
All right, well, this brings us into our absolutely final question. It's more of a statement, and I'm not really quite sure where this goes. So we filed this under the category of WTF, mate. And Fishmonger on our Discord server asked us, or said, or proclaimed, Watchers, hear me now. In the last season retrospective, Beardo Beatnik had asked you who else you believe the Master had coerced into his sex dungeon. Well, I come bearing answers. According to the 1984 Australian adult magazine Titbits, which for some reason had a dedicated Doctor Who chapter, it would seem that the canonical answer to our mutual friend's question is Tegan, as the dominatrix, Romana 2, and Jo Grant. Further expanded media claims that 7, 8, 12, River, Amy, and Missy, obviously, would also be present. So now, watchers, my question for you, what shall you do with this information? Personally, I've already begun writing the Draven-centered, dungeon-based 11th Doctor story to further canonize these roles. We are in a second wilderness era after all, and as we know, the first one was extremely horny. With that, I bid you good day.
Okay.
I'm going to go wash my brain.
So the answer to the question, what shall you do with this information, was to immediately ruin my search history by looking up what the heck this is. And I could not find anything relating to this magazine. It apparently was canceled in 1984. And so I would like you to send sources, sir. Also, are you reading these? Do you own these? How do you know? Because I couldn't find anything connecting Titbits with Doctor Who. And I need you to know how long I tried to connect these two subjects and how destroyed my Google image search now is.
I have an answer to the actual question in there, which was, what shall you do with this information? Nothing. Not really sure what to do with this information other than go, oh boy.
So I find it interesting because in this, it labels Tegan as the dominatrix, which I thought we established was going to be Romana 1.
Yes.
So I think they're already wrong.
I can also imagine Barbara is quite the dominatrix too, actually.
Okay, I'll concede. Mm-hmm.
That kind of scornful schoolteacher way.
Mm-hmm. And so I think that's a bit interesting. I don't think Jo Grant belongs there. I don't think Jo Grant needs to be in that dungeon. I understand the connection because a lot of Delgado's master is kind of involved there, but I don't think Delgado's master would be as much into the sex dungeon as Ainley's master is. So let's leave it there. It's fine.
Okay. Any other contributions to that?
I just want to reiterate, I want sources.
She'll accept pictures.
Actually, I really would rather not. Just publication date, generally cite it. When was it published? Where was it? Because I just couldn't find it. And I'm curious to know what it was.
If you can't get a scanned copy, just do a crude drawing.
Honestly, I wouldn't be mad. But also cite it.
Well, I'm not really sure how we follow up on that, so we're not going to.
You can't.
So that brings us to the end of our episode. We will be back next time when we will see the return of the Susan Freakout count and the Pertwee Gurn count for the first time in quite a while as we tackle the 5 Doctors. But in the meantime, thank you as always for listening in, and of course, have a good one. You have been listening to Watchers in the Fourth Dimension with Diana Burney, Reilly Schreck, Julie Philippek, and myself, Anthony Williams. This episode, We Got the B-Team Here, was recorded on Wednesday the 24th of September 2025. If this is your first time listening into the show, all of our previous episodes are available wherever you like to get your podcasts. You can also interact with us on Facebook and Instagram at Watchers4D, and you can also email us at watchers4d@gmail.com. If you're enjoying the show, please do subscribe and consider leaving us a review or rating on your favourite podcasting app. All of those things really do help the show. And always remember, if you're going to claim things about dirty magazines mentioning Doctor Who, we need citations.